The crucifixion of Jesus of Nazareth is the central event of human history, a cataclysmic moment where the divine and the human, justice and mercy, despair and hope collided on a hill called Golgotha. Amidst the weeping women, the mocking religious leaders, the bewildered disciples, and the two criminals, stands a figure of immense authority and profound paradox, a Roman centurion. He is a man of war, an agent of the empire that executed Jesus, a professional accustomed to death. Yet, he becomes the first human in the gospel narratives to openly declare the truth of Jesus' identity following his death. Surely this man was the Son of God.
Matthew chapter 27 verses 27 to 44, Mark chapter 15 verses 16 to 32, Luke chapter 23 verses 26 to 43, John chapter 19 verses 16 to 24.
To understand the centurion's confession, we must first understand his world. He was a centurio asterisk, a commander of roughly 80 men, a century. These were the backbone of the Roman legions, seasoned, disciplined, and hardened soldiers, often rising through the ranks due to merit, courage, and leadership. Stationed in the volatile province of Judea, he was intimately familiar with insurrections, zealots, and the complex religious landscape of the Jews. Luke 23:26-33. And as they led him away, they seized one Simon of Cyrene, who was coming in from the country, and laid on him the cross, to carry it behind Jesus. Luke 23:26. The centurion, whom we will call Longinus from this point, was in command of the execution detail, a quaternion of 4 soldiers, John 19:23. His duty was clear: ensure the sentence of crucifixion, pronounced by Pontius Pilate, was carried out efficiently and publicly as a deterrent. He watched as the condemned man, Jesus, faltered under the weight of the patibulum, the crossbeam. He gave the order to press a bystander, Simon of Cyrene, into service. This was not an act of compassion but of pragmatism. The prisoner needed to be alive when nailed to the cross to maximize the punishment's duration and spectacle. Longinus's mind was likely on procedure, crowd control, and the swift completion of a distasteful but routine duty.
Matthew chapter 27 verses 35 to 44, Mark chapter 15 verses 24 to 32. And when they had crucified him, they divided his garments among them by casting lots. Matthew chapter 27 verse 35. Longinus oversaw the grim mechanics of crucifixion.
He watched as his men stripped Jesus, a deliberate act of humiliation, and divided his clothing as a standard perquisite of their grisly task. He heard the nails being driven, the thud of the cross being erected, the initial groans of the condemned. He observed the titulus, the sign reading, Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews, in 3 languages, John 19:19-20. To him, it was a political statement from Pilate, a jab at the Jewish leaders who had demanded this execution.
He then settled into a watchful posture. His job was to maintain order and ensure the condemned did not die too quickly. He heard the taunts slicing through the air, more piercing than any spear. He saved others, he cannot save himself. Mark chapter 15 verse 31. Let him come down now from the cross, and we will believe in him. Matthew chapter 27 verse 42.
For hours, Longinus was a spectator to this verbal and physical torture. As a Roman, he valued dignitas and courage. He had seen men beg, curse, and break on the cross. Yet, this Jesus was different. There was a silence, a dignity, an authority that defied the situation.
Luke chapter 23 verses 39 to 43. The dialogue between Jesus and the criminals provided the first crack in Longinus's professional facade. Luke chapter 23 verses 39 to 43. One of the criminals who were hanged railed at him, saying, "Are you not the Christ? Save yourself and us." But the other rebuked him, saying, "Do you not fear God, since you are under the same sentence of condemnation? And we indeed justly, for we are receiving the due reward of our deeds. But this man has done nothing wrong." Then he said, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." And he said to him, "Truly, I say to you, today you will be with me in paradise." Luke chapter 23 verses 39 to 43. Longinus heard this exchange. A condemned criminal, in his final agonizing moments, not only defends Jesus but pleads for a place in his future kingdom. This was not the logic of a dying man, it was the faith of a transformed one. And Jesus' response, "Today you will be with me in paradise," was not the cry of a defeated revolutionary. It was the pronouncement of a king granting amnesty. The word, paradise, from the Persian, paradisa, meaning a walled garden, would have been foreign to Longinus, but the tone of sovereign authority was unmistakable. Here was a man presiding over his own execution, dispensing mercy from an instrument of torture. Longinus's certainty about the world, that Rome was ultimate, that power was expressed through force, began to waver. Matthew chapter 27 verses 45 to 54, Mark chapter 15 verses 33 to 39, Luke chapter 23 verses 44 to 47. The final 3 hours of Jesus' life were a symphony of supernatural phenomena, each movement challenging Longinus's understanding of reality. Matthew chapter 27 verse 45, Mark chapter 15 verse 33, Luke chapter 23 verse 44, Matthew chapter 27 verse 45. This was no eclipse. The Passover occurred during a full moon, when a solar eclipse is impossible. This was a deep, unnerving, theological darkness. For a Roman, darkness was often associated with the displeasure of the gods. For a Jew, it echoed the plague of darkness in Egypt and Amos's prophecies of the day of the Lord. For Longinus, it was a violation of the natural order. The sun, which the Romans worshipped as Sol Invictus, was extinguished at the death of this Jewish teacher. The professional soldier felt a primal fear. This was no longer a routine execution. Matthew chapter 27 verses 46 to 50, Mark chapter 15 verses 34 to 37, Luke chapter 23 verse 46. And about the 9th hour Jesus cried out with a loud voice, saying, Eli, Eli, lema sabachthani? That is, my God, why have you forsaken me? And Jesus cried out again with a loud voice and yielded up his spirit. Matthew chapter 27 verses 46, 50. Longinus did not understand the Aramaic words, but he heard the intensity. This was a loud voice, not the weak gasp of a man succumbing to asphyxiation. It was a cry of profound spiritual agony and, for those who knew the Psalms, a quotation of Psalm chapter 22, which ends in triumph. Then came the final cry, recorded by Luke. Father, into your hands I commit my spirit. Luke chapter 23 verse 46. This was not a life being taken. It was a life being willingly, voluntarily surrendered. Longinus had never seen a man give up his spirit with such command. The victim was in control. Matthew chapter 27 verse 51a, Mark chapter 15 verse 38, and behold, the curtain of the temple was torn in two, from top to bottom. Matthew chapter 27 verse 51a. Though likely not visible from Golgotha, the theological shockwave of this event would reverberate through Jerusalem. For Longinus, if he learned of it later, it would be another piece of the puzzle. The God of this land had acted decisively at the moment of this man's death. Matthew chapter 27 verse 51b-53, and the earth shook, and the rocks were split. The tombs also were opened. Matthew chapter 27 verse 51b-52. This was the final, undeniable cataclysm. The very ground beneath his feet, the symbol of Roman stability and terra firma, trembled. This was no coincidence. The darkness, the strange cry, the voluntary death, and now the earthquake, all of it pointed back to the man on the center cross. It is in this context, standing in the unnatural darkness, feeling the earthquake, and reflecting on the 3 hours of profound events, that Longinus speaks. The Gospels record his declaration with beautiful variations that, when combined, give us the full picture of his transformation. Mark chapter 15 verse 39, and when the centurion, who stood facing him, saw that in this way he breathed his last, he said, Truly this man was the Son of God. Mark, writing for a Roman audience, emphasizes what the centurion saw. The Greek is forceful. That in this way he breathed his last, hoti hutos exepnusin. It wasn't just that he died, but how he died. The centurion, a connoisseur of death, had never witnessed a death like this. The dignity, the authority, the loud cry, the voluntary surrender, it all culminated in this realization. His confession, the Son of God, Huios Theo, is the climax of Mark's Gospel. A Roman soldier affirms what the reader has known since chapter 1. Jesus is the Son of God. Matthew chapter 27 verse 54, when the centurion and those who were with him, keeping watch over Jesus, saw the earthquake and what took place, they were filled with great fear and said, "Truly this was the Son of God." Matthew expands the scene to include the soldiers under Longinus's command. They all saw the earthquake and what took place. The what took place, ta genomena, is a broad term encompassing all the phenomena. The darkness, the cry, the rending of the veil, which Matthew just described. Their reaction is great fear, ephebethasin sphodra, a terror that is more than fright. It is holy awe, the kind that falls upon a person in the presence of the divine. The confession is collective, but as their leader, Longinus is the one who gives it voice. He leads them, as a good centurion should, not just in duty but in worship. Luke chapter 23 verse 47. Luke, the Gentile physician and meticulous historian, highlights the moral dimension. The centurion praised God, edixazin ton theon. His confession is an act of worship. And his declaration is, certainly this man was innocent, dikaios, while dikaios can mean righteous or just in this forensic context. It is a powerful legal pronouncement. The representative of the executing authority officially exonerates the executed man. He declares that the entire proceeding was a miscarriage of justice. In Luke's theology, the Gentile world, through its representative, acknowledges the innocence of the Jewish Messiah. Longinus's proclamation was not a single, simple sentence. It was a profound, multi-layered realization that erupted from him, likely encompassing all these meanings in a torrent of awe and conviction. It can be synthesized as, truly, beyond any doubt, this man was the Son of God. I have seen the way he died, I have witnessed the heavens and earth testify to his identity, and I now see that he was an innocent, righteous man. All glory to God. His words were not a calm theological conclusion but the stunned, thunderous whisper of a hardened man whose world had just been turned inside out by the love and power of a crucified God. While the Gospels are silent on the centurion's future, Christian tradition, as recorded in apocryphal texts and the writings of the early church fathers, fills the gap. He is given the name Longinus, from the Greek longchi, lonche, meaning spear. John chapter 19 verses 31 to 37, but one of the soldiers pierced his side with a spear, and at once there came out blood and water. He who saw it has borne witness. His testimony is true, and he knows that he is telling the truth. That you also may believe. John chapter 19 verses 34 to 35. The soldier who thrust the spear is not named in John, but tradition unanimously assigns this act to Longinus. Why would the centurion himself perform this duty? Perhaps to ensure Jesus was dead before the Sabbath. Perhaps, after his confession, he was drawn to the body, compelled to approach the source of this mystery. The flow of blood and water, later interpreted as symbols of the sacraments of Eucharist and baptism, is a final, physical miracle. Tradition holds that the fluid touched Longinus's diseased eyes. Some versions say he was nearly blind, and he was miraculously healed. This physical healing cemented the spiritual one.
According to tradition, the transformed Longinus left the army, was instructed in the faith by the apostles, and preached the gospel in his native Cappadocia. He ultimately bore witness not just with his words at the cross but with his life, suffering martyrdom for his faith. His spear, the Holy Lance, or Spear of Destiny, became a revered relic, symbolizing the weapon that confirmed the death of Christ, yet also, paradoxically, became an instrument of healing and revelation. The story of Longinus, though brief in Scripture, is a microcosm of the Christian gospel. It is the story of
1. Unexpected revelation. God reveals himself not to the powerful and religious in their seats of authority, but to a Gentile soldier at a place of shame and death. 2. The power of the cross. The cross, an instrument of terror, becomes the throne of revelation. It is where true power is made perfect in weakness. 2 Corinthians chapter 12 verse 9. 3. The good confession. In the face of overwhelming evidence, the perfect life, the supernatural events, the voluntary death, the appropriate response is worship and confession. Longinus models the response of every believer.
4. Transformation. No one encounters the crucified and risen Christ and remains the same. The executioner becomes a saint, the professional soldier becomes a passionate evangelist.
Longinus stands for all eternity as a testament to the drawing power of Christ. He is a reminder that faith can be born in the most unlikely places, that even at the moment of deepest darkness, God is at work to reveal His Son, and that the confession, truly, this was the Son of God, is the only fitting response to the man on the cross.